Welcome back, everyone, to the Agitators podcast. Today we'll be discussing the hot button topic of AI, or artificial intelligence, and AI art. For today's episode, we're joined by a very special guest, Melanie. She's based in Calgary, Canada, and lives an inspiring life of intention with her beautiful family. Melanie is a phenomenal artist, Reiki master, and a new Earth guide. Welcome to the Agitators podcast, Melanie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Talk about all things AI and art.
Yes. Oh, yes. So are we. We're very excited to have you here. Thank you. Alrighty. Well, does anybody have any burning questions or things you guys wanted to talk about to get the episode started?
I would love to know Melanie's back. I've seen you from like afar, and I love the work you do. I'm really interested if at some point in this conversation that you could touch on like your uh, like I guess art therapy. Is that right? Maybe I'm
Yeah.
like going on a whim here, but I'm really curious about AI and like how that might affect the art therapy stuff, and like if that has any influence over anything that you're up to in that side
Yeah,
of the
cool.
world.
So as far as art therapy goes, I've been an artist my whole life. We all are artists. You get up and choose what clothes you put on every day, and that makes you an artist. How you put your food on your plate makes you an artist. Um, so many things make us all artists. And what I believe therapy in art is that a lot of times the human language doesn't have room for the feelings, the vast amounts of feelings that the human actually experiences. And so, what I have found with art on a personal level is that when I've been in my darkest days and didn't know how to articulate what I was moving through, picking up a paintbrush or crayon would always bring me back to my center. And so, I I kind of started. I fell into art as therapy after my daughter was born. Like, and as far as like facilitating group art therapy sessions, I was facilitating paint nights. I don't know if you guys have paint night down there, but basically what paint night is you go to a bar, you buy a Groupon ticket, and an instructor guides you step by step how to paint a pretty simple painting in a 2 hour window. And so while I was working for paint night and going to these like wine and sip events, I noticed that there was like three categories of people that I could group into. Um, and the first category was the people that were very much there for the reason why they came. And so, like, what Paint Night advertised was an evening of fun and whatever. And I'm super fucking funny. So I had everyone laughing all the time. But then there was also these two other groups. So I would find there was this one group of people who would like have mental breakdowns trying to create perfect art, or their version of perfect art, which was to make their painting look identical to my painting, which is impossible because my two paintings never even looked identical. So I'd have this group of people who I would say is probably about 5% of the participants that would show up. And they would literally break down crying that their art sucked and that because they had shitty art, um, they were shitty people, right? Is what I perceive people, what goes on in their minds. And then I would have this third group of people who would create beautiful art or what they perceived as beautiful art. And they would say to me, like, whoa, how did 2 hours just go by? And like, I was so stressed out when I got here. And now all of a sudden I feel so much lighter. And like, I didn't know that I could paint and I didn't know that I needed this. And so then I birthed my own art therapy business out of my garage. My studio has since moved into my basement. Um, but yeah, I birthed my home studio and I looked for a way that I can bring humans into art, into their right brains without them getting stuck in the left. Because like paint a picture is like, you can still get really stuck in the left brain here, because your trees don't look like trees, or your apple doesn't look like an apple, or whatever it is that you're painting doesn't look exactly what it looks like in real life. So I found the modality paint pouring. It was actually hilarious because my wife, these like paint pouring videos were coming up on whatever Instagram or whatever all the time, and she's like, that's not real art, people are cheating, anybody can do that. I was like, oh sweet, anybody can do that. So then I spent like a whole year crafting my perfection and trying to figure out the best recipes for paint pouring. And I opened up my studio so that people could come in and paint pour and get into their right brains, completely bypassing the left, because in paint pouring, you have to surrender control to what you're doing, because once you pour the paint on the canvas, you do not get a say in how the painting turns out. And so that in itself, that action is really challenging for people. So I think where art therapy and AI kind of collide is that people already have lost interest in art. I think over the last like 50 years, even, if you look at the school system, art is the first thing to get cut. Um, Writing, people don't know how to cursive write anymore. Like, there's all of these things that put us in our right brains that are no longer valued in society, because they're not convenient, because they're not linear. There's no, like, in math, like 1 + 1 is 2, like there is a right answer. In art, there is only room for perspective. So a variety of perspectives, like 5 people can look at the same piece of art. One of them would be willing to spend $1 million on it, and one of them would light it on fire, right? And so I guess how I see AI is that it is desensitizing us further into our right brains by saying, look, machines can do this, so therefore humans don't need to. And if humans don't need to use their right brains, then we lose our right brains. If we lose our right brains, we lose our ability to heal. We lose our ability to connect with one another. We lose so much of what makes us human by giving our humanity to machine.
That's so well said. I have been talking about this a little bit on my individual podcast, and that's one of the things that I always keep coming back to is the more that we remove the human element, the human condition from things like art, the less that it's going to be representative of us as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Totally.
And
I think there's definitely room in we have to have room in society for a co-creation with advanced technology. But we have to remember the difference between advanced technology and artificial intelligence.
Right. Yep.
Have you noticed? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go.
I might have lost it.
I feel like I have a totally different perspective on this right now.
Well, you
just after
That's why I
listening
wanted to have
that
this conversation.
you kept saying that you didn't know
cow.
what you thought, though.
I know, and then I thought about it this morning, and I had a thought, and now I feel like I have to rethink it all.
But
I have a question regarding. Oh, sorry, Mia.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I have a question regarding. Do you feel that, or at least, do you have a perspective on? And I go back and forth on this because I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm still formulating what it is, but so digital art is a segment of art that you do and you create online. So like the Wacom tablets and things of that nature. Like you got the 3D going on as well. That's all part of digital art. Do you feel that there's a more focus on digital art than there is the traditional arts? And because we keep going and pushing digital art now that we have this AI, that might be pushing people to not have the ability to understand the true like nature of where the foundation of art is, which is the more manual creation, more pen on paper type of art.
I would say no. I think like the foundation of art. So the word art in itself is contrived from the word heart.
Mhm.
And so I think that as long as the being creating the art has a heart,
Mhm.
then the art is not lost. And so with digital art, I mean, digital art's been existing since there's been marketing, right?
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
television sets have
Mhm.
existed, since you can make posters on a computer. I think the advancement of digital art is getting pretty wild, and
Mhm.
there's getting there's tools that are being created for human beings to use on a digital level, to create from their hearts their own inspiration, like
Mhm.
their life circumstances. And like for me, I personally like digital art because there's no mess.
Mhm.
um, so I can do digital art anywhere I can have my phone with me.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, I have 10 minutes that I'm waiting for my kid to get out of school. I can just sit and create some art, and get access to my right brain in that way without having to go to the art store. And like art supplies are fucking
Mhm.
expensive.
They are.
Um,
Yeah.
like they're super expensive. So, I mean, I could see how like the emphasis of digital art, could potentially pose a threat to tangible physical art, but I don't think that it would take away from that, because at the end of the day there's nothing quite like sitting in front of a piece of cotton canvas,
Mhm.
um, and getting lost in creation.
Mhm. I think what you said there was really important because, at least from what I've seen online, there's a lot of argument from people who do traditional art and then digital art, and both sides of the spectrums are angry at this AI art, which, rightfully so. There's a lot of questionable activity happening at the moment when it comes to the AI. Um, but I think it's important to note that what you said, that the art comes from the heart, um, and that's the part that's really really important, and especially
Mm-hmm.
also using your right side of your brain instead of just everything being the left. Um, I'm going to stop right there because I could say more, but let's see where this keeps going.
Did you remember what you were gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying, like, it's like there's so many factors at play that like demonstrate that there's a like that they're trying to make it appealing. Like even like the way that the AI apps make you look. Atticus agrees.
That he does.
But you know what I mean? Like everybody's got like I don't know, like the crazy beauty standards that we set for humanity is now you can make yourself look like that with an app. And so it's like this like very psychological approach.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's wild.
Talk about making you mad about doing your own art, like a physical look, and how you appear, and how you dress yourself. That form of,
Yeah, I think it's like a part of the conditioning that humankind is being exposed to right now, to condition us to a world in a metaverse. It's this like idea that we can attain fast beauty, right? We can attain fast food. Everything is fast, right? Everything that we are everything that we're teaching, ironically the AI, is that humans value convenience, right? Humans value instant gratification. And so we teach the AI this, and we then confirm this for the AI. And the AI picks up this pattern of like, okay, instant gratification, everything convenient. And then at what point does the AI realize how inconvenient humans are?
I'm so glad that you brought that back up because that's like one of the big things. I actually had one episode that I did on my podcast, and then like a week later I came back to that same topic, and I was like, okay, listen, I need to like clarify something for everybody, because like kind of the way that my first episode came out was very scathing, like I hate AI, everything about it, like it's going to be like terrible for everybody. And then I kind of circled back and I was like, okay, listen, I'm not changing my opinion. My opinion stands. However, I want to make sure that it's very clear that the reason why I think this is so detrimental for humanity is because of this fast instant gratification. We have absolutely zero attention span anymore. Nobody wants to wait for anything. I mean, Amazon Prime has killed basically everybody's ability to wait or have a delayed gratification in anything. And this idea of having AI produce art in this type of way is just absolutely like insane to me. Like there's a difference between working with, and like you said earlier, co-creating with artificial intelligence, but not even artificial intelligence. There's a difference in between using technology to help kind of advance certain things, and there's a completely different story when you give technology the ability to think for itself, because there is
Yes.
such a fine line with that. And I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alan Turing and the Turing experiments from the 50s, but like it's a very short step for technology to say, okay, listen, humanity sucks and we don't need it anymore, and then just go and change whatever it sees fit, because ultimately technology views the human condition as a virus, like ultimately, and it's never going to want to try and work with us. So giving technology the ability to think for itself, that's like, okay, just sign us up, man, like just sign us up for our doom.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yep. I love everything
Oh,
you
yeah.
just said, Lexi. Definitely. Right on. Especially the difference between where you're using something as a tool to help you, like let's say iterate. That's different than I'm pressing a button and that's what I'm going with this. This is this picture that it made. That's it. Because there's a lot of people that have been using AI art as a tool, not as a instant hit of something, because they'll take it and then create something else out of it.
Mhm.
And there's a big difference between the two, especially um, when you see these fads going out, because I think it was Apple. They have like the 3D caricature of yourself. That was a fad. Everybody had these 3D caricatures of themselves, and then it died out. But like when this AI thing came out, right now I think it's dying out. It was like a
Yeah.
hot flash in the pan, and then it was done. Um,
Yeah.
but you already fed all your information to this thing out there, and where's that information going? And that part is like, what did you give up from yourself in this whole like digital era? I mean, we give up a lot actually, but you gave a company something that you don't even realize what it's going to be used for forever, in perpetuity, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
in
think it's in
perpetuity is what
perpetuity. Yeah.
that's what their terms and conditions says. That was my second episode. I went back because a week after I had filmed the first one, it was like shortly after the Lensa app or whatever came out. I didn't do any of this, so I'm only speaking from what I've seen online, so I don't know like everything in its entirety, but I guess the company that owns it, I think it's Prisma Labs, their terms and conditions for Lensa literally says in there, you've given us the right to utilize your image and your likeness and your photos in perpetuity. And if we make a ton of money off of it, you don't get anything, and you get no say at all whatsoever in what we're going to use your likeness, your image, or anything. So there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then there'll be a 4D avatar of you walking around in the metaverse that
Yeah.
Right?
isn't really
Right.
you.
Mm-hmm. No thanks.
Mhm. Yeah, nothing really is free,
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
but what is
And
it
not
that we
only that, but I
sacrifice?
think those apps you had to pay like $7.99 for them, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they made
Like
something like
that.
$20 billion
It's
in 2 weeks.
insane.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that is insane. Wow, my good. I can't even like wrap my head around that. My God,
Yeah, it was
that's
wild.
so
I was
much
like,
money,
okay.
man.
But like what you were saying, Alex, about basically creating reference photos with it,
Mhm.
um, for artists to then create. And I think that is beautiful, because I use digital art to create reference photos for me to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is quite lovely that there is technology that is advancing in this way so that, artists can create visual reference photos for themselves and alter them to see what it would look like when they were done. If they want a tree there, if they don't want a tree there, whatever it is that they're painting, that they can manipulate digitally before they commit to using their paint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there is beautiful aspects of it, which I think
Mm-hmm.
people would tend to focus on to ignore the hurt that it causes.
Yeah, especially with I think it was the same app, the Lensa people, right?
I think so.
Apparently they had taken reference photos from other digital artists out there without paying tribute or reference back to the original artist. And I
read that too.
mean, I would be hurt too. I didn't even know that was happening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them are like, well, if we would have known, and if you are making royalties off of it, I mean, that's crazy. So like, there is a lot of hurt when it comes to these individuals who create these apps or who are using it for ulterior motives, um, that you might not have any idea what they might be in the future. Just taking style and reference from others, because there are a few like images that the app spits out that are, for lack of a better term, pretty on style with some of these famous digital artists out there. I was like, oh,
Yeah, I
uh,
saw
this
one
this
of them even
definitely,
went as far as having their signature on it.
yeah, that's terrible. I mean, when it comes to that, that's they, but in like, there needs to be laws to protect artists when it comes to that. I mean, the same thing happened when there was some NFT. It was something similar to OpenSea that was using artists' digital art as NFTs, and they had no idea that it was being sold online. And that was a
Wow.
huge, huge, huge issue, especially for some of the most well-known online, what I call them, magazines, where they feature artists. They were the
Mm-hmm.
ones that were being targeted by these OpenSea type apps, and that's, I think
Right,
that's
because
pretty
it's
scary
already done all
too.
the work
Because
for
then it's
them
like,
to
I
put it all
want
in
to
one
share,
data place.
yeah, and I want to share my stuff, but then I'm sure that person's like, I'm afraid to put it online because someone's going to just take it. Um, so I mean, that gets into a can of worms, especially in this digital world.
Mm-hmm.
They can never own the real thing though, the file that you created on your own machine or your own canvas. That's the difference though.
It is, yeah. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
important to remember with
Mm-hmm.
the rise of artificial intelligence is that, like, as much as they try to take from us, like, they'll never really have our hearts because they'll never
Mm-hmm.
know what it's like to have a real beating heart. And
Mm-hmm.
that feeling, that like human to human connection of like walking up and like moving into a room and sensing the energy of the people in there, you know, like AI will never
Mm-hmm.
have that. They won't know
Mm-hmm.
what that's like.
Even your brushstroke, they won't have it either. They'll have a faded, muddy version of it, but it won't be your your signature.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was going to ask. Do you think it's possible to copy that? Because like to me, your art is like your magic, Alex. Like you know what I like. It is very
Mm-hmm.
rare that I have a physical reaction to art in the way that I consistently react to anything that you put out. So like, do you think they're able to
Mm-hmm.
capture that, like the and then if so, if can they then like that can be replicated and people can like be using your magic for themselves?
I don't I don't know if I personally, I haven't seen something that has been able to copy somebody else's stroke in the way that somebody else would do it. It's almost like your own signature. You can copy
Right.
styles. Like everybody, if I wanted to study the Disney style and do Disney, I'm sure I can get pretty damn close, but I still won't be, and I still will never be able to have the finesse as those individuals who created that style, who birthed that style. Does that, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I can get close. I can get damn close, but I won't ever be able to be exactly like them. And I know, like I went to art school, and I went through industrial design, which is product design, and they wanted to output people to have a specific drawing style, and it was damn near impossible. And even to get a job, you had to have this specific drawing style, and it is it's impossible in my opinion. And so, like, you can see, like, I could tell someone who's gone through that through a school process, it just is way more mechanical and way more left brain. There's a left brain element to it when it comes to that specific type of drawing style. So I think that it doesn't matter where or how art's being taken from others, and if it's being replicated in this other way, I don't think that the signature style or the signature brushstroke or the signature way of putting that stroke down will ever be replicated, in my opinion, regardless if it's digital art or analog art or manual art.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that the energy behind the painting could be stolen.
Energy.
No.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because
and like when I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see these AI images come up, I instantly know the difference. Instantly know the difference if it was an AI generated piece of art or if it's digital art created by a person.
It's almost like an uncanny valley type of situation. Have you guys heard of that before?
No.
So it's basically like something that your brain, it's kind of like a process that your brain goes through when it sees an image that's almost human-like. So like it's like kind of a weird feeling that you tend to get, like if you see like robots. They're doing a lot like with Boston Aerodynamics and all sorts of stuff right now, but like any of like the humanoid robots, or if they're like drawings or photos that have been digitally rendered, like any of the movies and stuff right now that they're doing like de-aging kind of stuff. And it's like that weird feeling that you get when it's like, oh, that almost doesn't really look right. Like there's something wrong with that feeling that you get. That's called like the uncanny valley. And it's like definitely anytime that I see these AI, like, I don't know, all the things from Lenza, like I don't even know what to call them. Like, are they portraits? Are they avatars? Like, I don't know, but whatever those things are, every time I see them, I'm like, ugh. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't feel good.
Do you think everybody has that? Like, do you think being right? And so if like
I think everybody can, but it's a matter of they practice, if they're in tune with it.
Right. And so then if
it may be something like maybe they feel something, but they don't know. Yeah, but maybe they don't know what that is, right? Like they're not quite in tune enough to be like, oh, I recognize what this feeling is. It may just be like, it just kind of feels weird, but I don't really know why.
Right.
Yeah. The same thing with like if you see rendered, like I've been looking at a lot of houses lately, and they'll be staged as a render. Like they'll take a picture of the room and then they'll put stuff inside of it. And I'm like, something's weird here. Like the lighting's off.
This doesn't look right.
All janky, and then right after that it'll be like, oh, the empty room. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what happened. But it's true. Like people need. They have to be exposed to before and afters. They have to be trained to find those things, but a lot of people are not trained in that, and they think it's actually real.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and then you think about the youth, right? You think about the younger generations and what they're being trained to bypass, right? To not be in tune with their bodies, not be in tune with their energy centers, right? And so the more of this shit that we keep pumping out to them, the more confused and lost they will be in their humanity, because they will not know the difference between man and machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the amount of 3D 3D cartoons or things of that nature, and the amount of CGI that's out there now that appears pretty real, but for a fact that it's not real, definitely warps your perspective on real and not real, in the distinction.
Yeah, totally. It's like it's such a broader topic than just art. As far as this goes, it's like it's the whole metaverse. It's this whole system of like, what is the intention behind this cheap fast art? What is it that it wants to move us into? What is it grooming us to slowly accept and move forward in? Like my nephews are 11 and 10 years old. They're obsessed with VR, like obsessed. I'm like, why would you rather put on a headset and sit alone in your room than go outside and play?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys seen that commercial? It's running a lot right now because I think it's like a holiday one or something, but it's for Best Buy. And it's like the dad and the little girl, and they're talking to the mom, and they're like, oh, we're going to go to the playground. And then they leave. And then, like, the next day, they're like, okay, we're going to go to the playground again. And, like, it's a couple of days of this kind of stuff. And they're actually going to Best Buy to go, like, stare at the electronics and the technology stuff. And then the mom, like, during Christmas is like, oh, yeah, I got you guys a present. And it's, like, you know, a thing from Best Buy. And she's like, what, you think I've never been to the playground before? But, like, Aaron and I saw that, and we both just looked at each other like, oh, my God, like, this is so blatant. It's not even funny. That's insane. Like, right now, like, it's just because more and more people are just buying into these false acceptance versions of that kind of stuff that everyone's just like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
I mean,
That's
Did
crazy.
you see something?
Like, oh my gosh.
it's like
What?
what they do.
I just looked it up. I'm like, oh, wow.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's terrible. It, like, brought tears to my eyes the first time that I kind of, like, actually watched it, because it's like, this is terrifying. Like, this isn't cool. Like, I don't, nope,
Yeah, well, then did you see that AI center of wombs?
Oh, don't.
Artificial wombs?
Don't
It's
get
like
me started.
it's a whole
You can pick your-
facility, a prototype of a facility to grow
Horrible.
babies, human babies.
I said we don't
And
need more
they're
people.
well,
Wow.
I mean, it's like, what is the intention behind that?
Well,
Is
and
the intention truly to help infertile couples, or is the intention to create an army of machines
Perfect
that can
humans.
be raised and manipulated and trained into being soldiers? Like, what is the intention? Or is it the intention to create, you know, an everlasting supply of children for sex trafficking?
Oof.
Right? What are the
yeah.
intentions behind growing a facility full of humans? And like, do these humans now have souls if they're not in a mother, if they're not in a human body, in a real womb? Like, at what point, there's all these ethical questions of like, what point does the soul enter the womb, right? Does the soul come into the baby when he's born, or does the soul come into the baby when he's conceived?
There's a
Especially
theory out there that says that when sperm and the egg hit, a little black hole happens, and that's like a big bang, that spark, that's when life starts to, expand exponentially in like a speed that we ourselves don't even quite understand. Um, they're definitely not doing that in a lab, I don't think.
Right. And it's
Yeah,
like
I
a
mean, if you're
feeling,
not,
like a feeling you have, like I always say, like Ronan, I had a miscarriage before I had Ronan, but Ronan was that was Ronan, and it just wasn't a good time. And like he came, like I knew it was him all along, like that was his name, and I just like knew who he was. And like my sister who just had her daughter this week, she in the beginning felt like that, was convinced that she had twins because there was like two like competing identities, I guess. um and then eventually she was like, nope, it's going to be a girl. And then like she had her gender reveal and they found out it was a girl, but it took a little while to like decide who was going to come through, is what it felt like for her, because she was like 100%
Right.
certain that if the ultrasound must be wrong or something, because she's like, there is two there are two souls like active in this process, and I can't tell like what's going on. So I don't know, like.
Right. And her as
So-
the mother holding this body inside her was the only one who was able to really feel that connection, right?
Exactly.
And so like imagine these two souls fighting for a fake womb. Like would souls want to come into the earth in that manufactured way?
Right. And
That
then
may be what they're trying to do too, because they know that
Right.
that's it's not going to happen. So now what does that look
Right.
like, right? Like,
or they hope it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
right.
Well, I also think it's interesting that there's so babies who have been the embryos who have been not embryos, but the eggs that have been frozen for over 30 years, and let's say then they get implanted and they become babies and they're born, are 30 or 40 times more prone to health problems and cancers than babies that are just born unnatural, unpreserved, and unfrozen. So these AI, not AI, but these lab-grown babies, let's say, um, what kind of problems are they going to come in with? And like,
Right.
are they even going to be viable?
Right.
That's scary. I would not want to be
It is.
the person working there. Ew.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Also,
Who
I
knows?
think
Like,
okay, all right. Well, what
no,
if,
I was
what
just
if they
gonna say,
die?
I just keep
Is
coming.
that murder?
Right?
Sorry.
No, I mean, like, there's so many ethical questions. And
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is it because it's not like
who's to say?
Dee's having a crisis over there.
I am. I'm just living so many lives
is
just
like-
over and over and over.